The courtroom was silent, the kind of silence that only comes before a moment of great consequence. The air was heavy, and the faint hum of the fluorescent lights overhead added to the sense of unease. The young defendant stood, his hands shaking as he fidgeted with the cuffs of his too large jacket. His slouched shoulders gave away his anxiety, and he couldn't quite meet the judge's gaze. The whispers of the audience barely broke the stillness, some pitying, some curious, all waiting. Judge Caprio studied him for a moment, the soft lines of his face betraying a deep sense of understanding. He leaned forward, his voice calm but direct. "Young man, look at me." The teenager hesitated, eyes darting up before quickly lowering again. "I know this is a tough situation, but I'm here to listen, and I need you to be honest." There was no harshness in the judge's tone, just the steady assurance of someone who had seen it all before. The teenager swallowed hard, the sound loud in the stillness. He barely nodded, his nervousness palpable. This was it, the beginning of what could change everything for him. The prosecutor stood up, adjusting his papers with a slight rustle, then addressed the court. "The defendant has been involved in a series of reckless actions: theft from a convenience store, physical altercations at school, all signs of a young man heading down the wrong path." His words were clipped, as if delivering a sentence before the real trial even began. Judge Caprio listened intently, his face impassive. "What happened, son?" he asked, his voice holding a softness that contrasted with the harsh reality of the charges. The teenager shuffled his feet, then looked up, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't mean it to go this far. I just wanted to fit in. I guess I thought I had to prove myself." Judge Caprio's gaze softened, but his disappointment was clear. He wasn't angry, but he wasn't blind to the consequences of the young man's choices. He folded his hands on the desk in front of him and let the silence stretch for a moment before responding. "I understand the pressure of wanting to belong, but you have to remember, son, that mistakes don't define you. It's how you move forward from them that counts." The words lingered, settling over the teenager's shoulders like a heavy weight he hadn't quite expected. Judge Caprio shifted in his chair, his eyes narrowing slightly as he leaned forward. The room, still intense, held its breath. "When I was your age," he began, his voice steady, "I made mistakes too. Some of them cost me more than I care to admit." He paused, a flicker of memory crossing his face. "I remember one time, thinking I could get away with something, thinking the consequences didn't matter. But they did, and I had to face them. What I learned and what I want you to understand is that those mistakes were not the end of my story." The teenager's eyes flicked up, uncertainty written on his face. "The real story starts when we decide to take responsibility, to learn from what we've done, and to make a choice to do better next time." Judge Caprio's gaze was piercing now, a man who had seen the worst but still held hope for redemption. "You have a choice today, just like I did. What will it be?" The room fell into a silence that wasn't oppressive, but pregnant with the weight of possibility. The young man's chest rose and fell as he considered the judge's words, his hands now calm at his sides. Judge Caprio looked down at the case file in front of him, then back at the teenager. "I've heard enough, and I'm not going to send you to jail today." There was a collective exhale from the audience, an audible release of tension that seemed to lift in the room. The judge continued, his voice steady but firm. "Instead, I'm going to give you a second chance. You'll work with a mentor, complete community service, and take part in a program that will help you understand the consequences of your actions. It's time to start proving to yourself that you're better than this mistake." The teenager blinked, his face a mixture of disbelief and relief. "But I don't know if I can—" "You can," Judge Caprio interrupted gently, but with authority. "I believe you can, and this is your opportunity to prove it, to show yourself and everyone else who you really are." The teenager nodded, his eyes wide, his mouth slightly open in disbelief. This wasn't what he had expected. This was a chance, a lifeline. As the teenager walked out of the courtroom, his steps were lighter than when he had entered. He no longer felt like a mistake waiting to be judged, but someone who had been given the chance to rebuild. The courtroom, once a place of fear and judgment, now felt like a place of second chances. The narrator's voice, soft yet clear, echoed in the background. One mistake doesn't define you. What you learn from it does. The teenager glanced back at Judge Caprio one last time, their eyes meeting in a moment of silent understanding. This was his second chance. He had the rest of his life to make it count.